Half a day, the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, Housing is now called to order. Today is Thursday, October 7th. The time now is 10:31. Welcome to everyone connected by Zoom and those tuning in via television or the YouTube channel. Thank you for your patience and for accommodating the Zoom platform while we maintain social distancing. Public notices for this public hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Wednesday, September 29th, and again on Tuesday, October 5th. Agenda today is the Bill 196-36 CR, introduced by myself, co-sponsored by Senator Amanda Shelton, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Muña, Senator Frank Blas Jr., Senator Telena Cruz Nelson, Senator Pedo, and Senator Clynton Ridgell. An act to appropriate $9,500,000 from the 2021 Earned Income Tax Credit reimbursement to the Mayor's Council of Guam for the purpose of constructing, renovating, and repairs of Guam's sports facility, or even it will even maybe consider even allowing some flexibility so the mayors can take care of whatever they need to take care of in their village. The general rules of conduct. This Zoom meeting is hosted by my staff and will be muted, and will mute all Zoom participants until called upon. Members of the committee and or non-committee members will be allowed to ask questions and comments with the individuals testifying. Individuals testifying shall be first recognized by myself before speaking and begin by stating their name for record-keeping purposes when called to speak. Please ensure that you are unmuted. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the virtual public hearing by my staff. Please ensure that your video remains on throughout the hearing. Participants must be visible at all times and not engage in any other activity during the hearing. Failure to maintain visibility may cause your removal from meeting live stream. I also extend that if you're drinking or having a snack while we're in the hearing, I have no reservations for that. I'd like to acknowledge thank my colleagues for attending this morning's hearing. We have Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Pedo, Senator Jim Moylan. We have Senator Tellaje, and we have Senator Mary Camacho Torres. And we also have in our audience today the president of the Mayor's Council, Guam, Mayor Jesse Ali, from the famous village of Pedo. And on my opening statement, Guam Village Sports and Recreation Facilities provide an outlet for residents to exercise, build camaraderie among players and spectators, relieve stress, and encourage good sportsmanship. These facilities further offer a benefit for children to stay off the streets and promote productive lifestyles and healthy activities for residents. We all know that many of Guam's village sports and recreation facilities have lost their luster and are in dire need of repair or renovation. Many villages have worked to maintain the integrity of their village facilities with the limited resources available in local or federal funding opportunities. Additionally, several municipalities lack adequate sports or recreation facilities for residents. These residents must often travel to neighboring villages to participate or engage in healthy exercise. It is our goal that with federal government reimbursement for Guam and their Earned Income Tax Credit in 2021, we will be helping our community by this bill and appropriating $9,500,000 from reimbursement to the Mayor's Council of Guam for the purpose of constructing, renovating, and repair of Guam village sports facilities. I'd like to thank my co-sponsors on the bill, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Vice Speaker Tina Rose Muña, Senator Frank Blas Jr., Senator Telena Cruz Nelson, Senator Pedo, and Senator Clynton Ridgell. And I'd like to also express that if the mayors find that they need a little bit more flexibility in the bill, then we make the amendment appropriate. You just need to hear that testimony from the Mayor's Council. I'd like to also recognize that we have Senator Tellaje have joined us and Senator Joanne Brown. And we'll begin with Senator Jesse Ali, Mayor Ali, sir. Almost promoted you.
Thank you. You promoted me, but not right now. Thank you. I enjoy my position. But thank you, Senator and Chairman, and to all the senators. I do want to say, as the mayor of PT, my beloved PT, I support Bill 196. because we don't have a government facility in the village that is covered. And this money will certainly be able to help us cover our new basketball court that we have, or any other existing facility that we could use actually to house or to operate any other events or sporting activities. If we receive the money, this 500,000, and if we covered our basketball court, we certainly could have, and it could certainly serve many other types of events and activities other than basketball itself. And again, we don't have a community center in the village, and this money will certainly go a long way for our beautiful village of PT. As the president of the Mayor's Council of Guam, I support this bill because every mayor just has a long-standing problem with the maintenance of facilities. And we all know that we're all searching for money in all different places to renovate the gyms that we have and to harden them because of the storms that we incur. And not only that, but we also have basketball courts that are not covered that perhaps can be covered. And so we don't have the flexibility within our operations budget, simply because it's a lot lower than our total budget for the Mayor's Council of Guam. If we don't address the problems in the villages now with these facilities, we see that it'll just get worse, and we'll have less gyms, less facilities for our people to use. And so if we have the opportunity to use this money, we certainly want to be able to apply it across the board to all the mayors, all the 19 villages, so that we can all either harden our facilities or construct necessary ones. And so we do appreciate the senators for considering passing this bill. We do have two recommendations though, senators. And the first is to allow us the flexibility to use the money, simply because the bill as written specifies sports facilities, but we do have recreational facilities. We do have storage facilities that need a mitigation, that need hardening. A lot of our areas have wood and tin structures. And I mean, with the rain going on nowadays and with typhoon preparation, we stand to lose a lot of that. And so we would like the flexibility in its use so that we can apply it to other operations in the village, to include vehicles, perhaps heavy equipment and fuel. And I mentioned that simply because at the beginning of the pandemic, most of us purchased GSA vehicles, and those are secondhand vehicles. And we willingly gave them up to public health, for public health to use those vehicles. They were returned to us, but again, they're secondhand, they've been overused, and that's what we're left with. So our fleet of vehicles are not secondhand, they're not third-hand, they're fourth-hand. By the time we use them, they're either on a trailer or close to being on a trailer. And so the flexibility to at least purchase a vehicle, I know that the larger villages, at least in Tamuning and Manila and Barrigada, they also have issues with their fleet of vehicles, or their lack of. And so the flexibility to use the money in that manner is certainly appreciated. You'll know that in our operations budget, as we announced at our regular meeting yesterday, has decreased simply because we decided, and it was best, that we would come up with a good formula for all the villages from here on out. And so I do want to thank the senators for approving that and passing that. So all the villages received $20,000, and then the balance is prorated based on their paved road inventory. Majority of our budget, as you know, is dedicated to personnel and to utilities, and the rest is then divvied up. So for instance, as an example, PT now receives, I believe, $51,000 to operate for the entire year, and then Dededo now receives about $100,000. And so there's definitely a difference because Dededo is larger than PT, and we've been looking for that. We've been looking for that change because it's not equal, right? PT and Dededo are not equal. But because the smaller and the medium size villages now are experiencing a decrease in our budget based on that formula, the need and the use of this $500,000 per village will certainly be necessary. And secondly, similar to how the Inalahan Mayor's Office and the Chalunpagno Mayor's Office received their community host fund, we are requesting the senators to consider depositing this money, should it be approved, into something similar to the community host fund, where the Municipal Planning Council does oversee this expenditure and does approve the expenditure, and it is also audited. So those are the two recommendations that we would like to add on to this bill. Other than that, thank you so much, and I do appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mayor Ali. I'd like to also recognize that number one, let me see, we received testimony from the following mayors: Mayor Paul McDonald, Mayor Rudy Pacu, Mayor Johnny Canata, Mayor Robert Hoffman, and Mayor Vicente Taidu. And we'll begin our questions, and we'll start with Senator Amanda Shelton. Do you have any questions to the President of the Mayor's Council?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mayor Alec, for your testimony this morning, your support of the bill. I think I was very honored from Senator San Agustin to be able to co-sponsor this legislation after meeting with many of the mayors and visiting the different facilities in the villages and seeing the need for these recreational facilities. And we certainly have mayors who have been creative and ambitious, going out and making partnerships with private businesses in our community like yourself to stand up structures or to stand up facilities, and going after federal grants to make the villages places where our kids can play and have a place for a safe sports and recreation. And so it's sad knowing that we've had to do those things and not being able to fund it from the local government, but we're hoping that through this legislation that we can provide more to each of our villages and to our children. So I want to thank you very much for your recommendations today. And I know all of what you're talking about, whether it's a storage facility or an extra vehicle, those are things all tied to your facilities and the work that you do in the villages to take care of our children and our residents. And so I'm certainly open to those suggestions. And I know the chairman is as well, to the flexibility of using the fund. So I look forward to further discussion with him on that. So thank you very much, Mayor. And to the other mayors who have also provided their testimony, we appreciate that. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. Senator Pedo Terlaje, do you have any questions you would like to pose to Mayor Alec, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and Mr. President, thank you very much. I just wanted to, with the $9 million, I wonder, maybe you can give us a breakdown on just what you're going to use for the different mayors within the district. What do you plan to do with that $9 million?
Sure,
but
Senator.
Mr. President, the listing can come later, and I just wanted to know, the different projects and programs that you have for the different mayors within the districts.
I can respond briefly. So I do know that, thank you, Senator. I do know that there are several villages that are not receiving any additional funding for their facilities. And there are several mayors that have basketball courts just like TT that are uncovered. And so the $500,000 was based on how much it would take to cover that basketball court, similar to what Sinahanya has. And so if, for instance, like Inalahan is working on theirs, Talofofo does not have a covered basketball court. And so I'm so happy that the mayor of Talofofo submitted a testimony because we're always fighting to get him some help. And Mayor Taitigui he fights a lot. And I really, I'm so glad that he submitted testimony. I'm just kind of like emotional about that because, we talk a lot, we talk so much with Mayor Taitigui, and I just really, so as an example, Mayor Pedo, Senator Pedo, those of us that have basketball courts are not covered, we're looking to cover them with that $500,000. And those,
I would say that Jordan's got their basketball court at the gym, so I go there once in a while and I take a look at it, and I think it's okay.
Well, like for Zonia, for example, one of their issues with Zonia would be hardening the gym, fixing up the gym to make sure that to make it to standard, and also I believe the baseball field, I think is what they're considering. As another example, in Jigo wants to, I think Jigo has ideas to fix their gym and to make it air conditioned. And that's a good move, I think, because then they can utilize that gym for many other events. And so those are some examples, Senator.
The only thing in Zona, and I'm speaking for my village, because I don't think the main baseball field does have lighting, so maybe that's one of the projects that the mayor can prioritize.
That is correct, Senator. Mayor Bill did mention to me about the lighting for the baseball field in Zonia. That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Terlaje. I'll ask now Senator Torres, and then followed by Senator Moylan.
Thank you. Hafa everyone. Hafa mayors that are here today. As I understand it, the $9.5 million amount is going to be apportioned equally among everybody at $500,000 each. Is that my understanding?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. I wonder if consideration should be given to the greater good, right? The most how to affect the most number of people with this $9.5 million. And I just bring this up because when we consider the state of children on Guam, the state of crisis of children in Guam with the rampant abuse, the high suicide rates, the high incidence of latchkey children because their parents are either preoccupied or working, would the focus be better made if we looked at those projects, key projects that can impact the largest number of children in those most populated villages, as opposed to spreading it out at 500,000, where the ability to do some drastic improvements is minimized, right? With less money, you have less projects. So that's my first comment, is whether the focus should be on how to, rather than make it equal, how to affect the most number of children in the villages. Because I think that if the intent here is to address sports facilities as the bill proposes, then let that be the objective, right? Sports facilities that specifically benefit children and benefit them because of the current challenges that we have with children in distress, the high incidence of suicide amongst children, and it's escalating. DOE brought this issue up in another public hearing recently, informational hearing. And we know that there are a lot of kids that are latchkey children that really have no place to go and no adult supervision for a great part of the day. So my question to you, Mayor Alec, is, as you're talking about flexibility, in all honesty, it kind of concerns me because, one, I buy into the concept of funding sports facilities in the villages for our children's benefit. That I think is a very worthwhile thing if you're thinking about, the state of children's mental health, substance abuse challenges that we have, that is a very good remedy for those sorts of problems, right? And it worked in the past, decades ago, when we had robust recreational facilities. But if you're now going to deviate from that and say, well, let's have flexibility, it may involve other things incidental to the facilities, but it doesn't ensure that the sports facilities are itself being enhanced for use by the kids. Do you think that that's a valid concern or a valid point that maybe we should reconsider? I feel that if we're really talking about sports facilities and doing this for the greater good of the kids and the most number of kids, then perhaps what the better idea is to identify what is the most impactful of a facility and put the sufficient resources into that, as opposed to just fanning it out where, you know, it's too little to make too much of an impact in terms of, you know, what it would mean for the kids. Can you share your opinion on that? Because that's my general reservation about the discussion as it's unfolding right now.
Oh yeah, I understand. I completely understand your sentiments. I do have to say though that there are several villages that are receiving money already for some of their improvement for their facilities, for their sports facilities. And so initially the thought behind it was that we would offer this money to those districts that were not already going to receive facilities money. But then of course that changed course, and then it was just to offer the money to all the villages. And so those villages that are already going to be receiving help through another funding source, this money can be applied, and then those are the larger villages. This money can be applied to support the services that they would provide in turn, right? And so then those villages, like, and I'll use PT as an example, who would not be receiving any additional money from any other source, would use this money for its basketball court. I'll use Sinahanya as an example. Sinahanya probably is going to be receiving money for a sports facility, but they have another facility that needs support, which is the theater that they're building. And so if this money can assist in that theater or in the renovation or the full completion of that center, for the use of the children and for the use of the residents, then that's what we're supporting, and that's what we're hoping to be able to have that flexibility to use that money. And then I'll bring up Talafofo and Zonia. I know that they're receiving some money as well, but it's only for specific some specific sports facilities. But there are other areas like the pavilions that we're talking about in their parks and those that are added to their senior centers. So those are the other uses that we're hoping for flexibility on.
Yeah, I get it, but then again, we're deviating, right? We're not talking about, and that's my point. My point is, if we're going to say we're going to commit $9.5 million to sports facilities, let it happen. Because what happens too often in Guam, and we see even with where the government has given monies and tax credits and lands over for dedicated sports facilities, it doesn't come to fruition, right? Because it's either the focus is not there or it gets diffused. The focus gets diffused, and so
the other thing, Senator, if I may, if it would help to, and I certainly would be amenable to that, if it would help to include that every district would have to submit a plan. I'm all for it. I mean, it's just being accountable, and I think that helps the legislature, steer us in the right direction and ensure that the mayors also are compliant. So that if that would appease the body or appease the majority, I don't see that would be a problem, at least on my end, and I don't believe that the majority on my end as well will have an issue.
Yeah, please do, because I just don't. it would break
yeah.
my heart. It would break my heart. Actually, it would infuriate me if we went down the path of saying we're going to commit $9.5 million for sports facilities because we want to have a place for our children to go. We want to combat, drug use. We want to combat truancy. We want to combat suicide. Rates escalating. We want to help the children, and then we steer off and we use that money for other than facilities that would be places for these children to go, that would have a direct benefit to the kids. That would be an injustice. And that's my only point is if we can come to a real plan to say, all right, this is how we're going to apportion it, and not say necessarily we're going to make it equal, because things are not all equal in all villages. As you know, there are many villages that are more populated than others, that have a high concentration of children that are in need of a place to have recreation, right, and socialization. So putting money in those very, very targeted projects is very, it's notable. And that's the sort of thing that I would 100% support with you, because you're correct. We need to do this for our kids. And I know the mayors are doing a million things for the kids right now, including foster care, how to address those challenges. But once we start talking about deviation, we have to be careful, because we're going to end up where we are with like the soccer facilities, where so much tax credit, so much land was given over, and there's no progress. I mean, not to say who's to blame, but we can't continue down that state of affairs, with government money and children that are really just languishing, and they need us to step up for them. So that's my point. Yes, a plan, certainly, Mr. Chair. We have to be very specific, and basta ni esti. We say one thing, it's like a bait and switch. We need to para this already. Para ni bait and switch sa mansatsaga if I'm going to pago. Man goft satsaga. Sa nisita ta adzuda if I'm going to. Sa ano ha ilaliko. Presidus maasi.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Mayor Alec, prepare a list and then route it through us, and let's take a look at it. We would like to see some accountability. And if you can just provide that, get with your mayors, because you guys always meet, and we'll move from there. Senator Moylan, you have any questions for Mayor Alec?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would be nice with that idea of the plan. And maybe I can also ask with the idea that to share, how did that come about in that decision? Was that a unanimous vote, or how did this arrive to divide the money in such a way? Please.
I just know that the 500,000 was based on what it would cost to cover the basketball court in Alahan. And then it would help to cover everyone else's basketball court with the same amount of money.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to also recognize Senator Duenas has joined us. Senator Duenas, if you want to ask any questions before I move on to Senator Tello and Senator Brown.
I'll go ahead and defer to them, Mr. Chair, and go last. Thank you.
All right. Senator Brown? Do you have any questions for Mayor Allen?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. No, not so much questions. I certainly appreciate the testimony provided by Mayor Alec. I'm sure it's representative of a lot of the concerns our mayors have, but I understand the need for wanting to build these facilities. I mean, some villages have more, resources than others that have been put into construction. So I don't object at all to the need for having these facilities built within our villages, especially to have places for our young people to go. But again, I'm going to bring the issue up because of looking at the funding source. I mean, we're looking at a little over $9 million. And just counting so far with what we've done in the last few days with the money we set aside for the hospital, the money we set aside for the prison, the bill we heard this morning to provide $3.5 million for the burial of our ancestral remains, and now additional $9 million. I mean, we're at $52.5 million. So knowing that there's been so many bills. I realize, Mr. Chair, we all want to do all these things, and a lot of these things have been waiting for quite some time, but I'm just a little concerned about the funding source and whether or not this money is actually going to be tangibly available for these uses, because if we keep hearing all the bills that have been introduced, we far exceeded the amount of money we're anticipating. And then, you know, on the Budget Act, I thought we put the remaining of any additional money to go into the tax refund account. So I'm just bringing that up. I have no objection to the intent and desire of this bill to provide sports facilities in our village, but I just want to make sure we're not passing bills that don't have tangible appropriations attached to them. Because shortly, I think we're going to reach that mark in terms of the amount of money we're anticipating. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to comment.
All right, thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Tello, do you have any comments or questions for Mayor Alec?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Hafa Day, Jesse, to you. And I see that Mayor Hoffman is also listening in too as well. Hafa Day. Jesse, I took, you know, just continuing on what Senator Brown mentioned, you know, our concern, you know, there's no doubt about it that we feel that there's some funding that needs to be done for the recreational areas, you know, in the villages. I'm hearing from constituents coming up to me, telling me that they can't play on the basketball court because it's really unsafe. I'm even to the point they can't even do games there because referees refuse to even participate on that particular court because it's so bad and in need of repair. But staying on the course with regard to the funding source, Jesse, I took the initiative and sent you the fiscal note on your WhatsApp. Did you receive that just now?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Please take a look at that because this is not just coming from the legislature. This fiscal note is coming from BBMR, you know, and you being in the government for many years and knowing how it works. It even lists for you, Jesse, what's really nice about this physical note, it lists all these bills, you know, down and showing that it's at $111 million, you know, of appropriation. So based on this total appropriations of the all these bills combined that's been introduced. So I ask that you share this with your colleagues as well. I've attended your meetings, your monthly meetings, listening to everything that transpires, and the needs of the mayors are very important. And I hear what they're asking for. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was a individual who came on to even offer for free basketball uniforms, you know, for the leagues, for the village leagues, and to provide all that equipment and for them was amazing. But to hear some of the mayors saying they probably won't participate was disheartening. Why not? I mean, even if it's not, you can use another area, another basketball area to continue on. But I think we've all realized that with this pandemic, one of the most important things we have to do for our community is keep everybody healthy through exercise. And this definitely will help the mayors moving forward. I do have a question though. You know, the U.S. Department of Interior has awarded Guam with about $5.6 million in 2018 to renovate and repair the island's recreational facilities. It's unknown whether any of the municipal facilities were made part of the availability of this fund. In FY 2020, they marked several park repairs and renovation projects. Are you familiar with this, and are you aware of any funding that was given to the mayors for this?
I'm not fully aware as to where all the money went to, but I do know that there were some mayors that received some money for it, yes.
So knowing that, you know, there's funding that came from DOI, I believe that we all saw how the governor appropriated funding to each mayor's villages, certain mayors, not all, but some mayors receiving funding through the CARES Act. I don't know about the ARP funding. I think that might have been the ARP funding that was given out recently. So the report that the chairman is asking for on what facilities and what villages that need repair, that report that you're going to put together, can you also incorporate in that report how much funding have you received since 2000, let's say 2018, because that's when $5.6 million was awarded for these island recreational facilities. So from 2018 until today, how much funding has the Mayor's Council received, or each village received? Then we can get a clearer mark at who's really in need and who is not. You know, sometimes I know that Mayor Hoffman is very aggressive and knows how to write grants and looks in every nook and cranny for funding for his village. He's very good at doing that, while some others don't. So I appreciate that report to give out. I like Senator Brown said, I totally believe in the intent of this bill, this legislation, but the funding for this bill is really, in my eyes, and based on Senator, what's her name, Daphne Shimzu, there's no money in 2020, only for 2021. So thank you, Mayor Alec, for all you're doing, and I greatly appreciate being able to participate in your monthly meetings too at the Mayor's Council. It's very informative, very, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tello. And Mayor Alec, when you're looking up the funding from DOI, that was the one that was referenced specifically to Parks and Rec. Senator Duenas, do you have any comments or questions for the mayor?
I do, Mr. Chairman, but I see that Mayor Hoffman has his hand up. Maybe he might have a question that we need to answer. So can I defer to Mayor Hoffman for a moment, and then I'll come back? Yeah, Mayor Hoffman was raising his hand, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mayor Hoffman, can you turn on the video, please? Robert, you got video there?
My video is disabled by the host. Hi, Senator, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It says my video is, oh, okay, okay. Okay, now I can see.
There you go.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for seeing me and hearing me out. I heard what Senator Torres also said, and I kind of agree with her there, because the issues that we're actually having, and from my point of view, is not all villages have programs. We're a small village, but we have a lot of programs. But I don't want to be penalized because of the size of my village either. You have villages that have gymnasiums that have no leagues whatsoever, but I have a summer and a fall league. I have Zumba classes. And I'm building an arts theater right now. And so when I saw that it was recreation, sports only, there's a lot of people like me, like my family, who are not just sports folks, but we're also in the arts. And a lot of the grants that I do receive, there's things that are not covered. They're called unallowable costs, like the theater seats, like the screen, like the sound system, and all the other things in between that. So we kind of wanted to see and use the facility and the money for that. You know, fixing up the sidewalks and putting in speed bumps and putting up signs is a great way to also encourage people to get out and walk. Was one of the only things you could do during the pandemic, was go outside and walk, because all the facilities were closed. So that flexibility is what I'm trying to look for in terms of getting not just the recreation, not the sports side, but just the recreation side of it. You know, we have beautiful parks, and this is a great boost to the industry, because then we're not just patronizing construction companies only should this go through. You know, we have these needs in these, you know, specifically, and we're constantly getting the calls and the requests, even from your offices, to, you know, for things like, you know, can we fix this pothole or do this or do that there? So that's the flexibility I'm looking at. I agree, we can't submit the plan. To speak on the DOI funding, just last week, the RFP went out by Public Works. So we actually haven't received any money whatsoever yet. But those are specific projects that were already kind of negotiated with that. For some, it's going to help with the renovation of the gym shell that most of those gyms have. Like Talafofa has a gym, Jotnia has a gym, Aganya Heights is going to replace the lights in the gym. So there are specific tasks that DOI has. But also with federal money, there are also restrictions on that, on certain things that you can and cannot do, and then all these requirements and clearances that need to happen. So I think with this type of money, it can kind of go to where, you know, you're not allowed to build in Umatec because it's the flood zone and all this other stuff. But if it's local money, you can do it. So that's the flexibility the mayor's hoping to have, versus him just saying, okay, you can only go to this specific area there. He's trying his best. We know the other mayors are trying their best to kind of make ends meet, but it's not a cookie cutter solution. But, you know, we've kind of shown that in the last 16 years, by having all the activities, it has reduced crime. It has reduced obesity. It has reduced all these things. And I don't want to be penalized saying, oh, you're only a small village, you only have 2,000 people, so you're only getting X amount of money, when I can very much go toe to toe with any large village. And, you know, the suicide and all the other issues that happen on the other villages also happen in my village as well. And it's just, you know, what we want to prevent it as well, and not just say, okay, only this side of the larger villages there. And every village mayor has an opportunity to get the grants that I do. They just don't apply sometimes, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they're not qualified for it. And so, you know, we try to help each other in that manner. But what we do as a community and as mayors, it's not just specifically for Senohanya. You are more than welcome to come up there, being from Dededo, or anybody else can come up there and use the facility. It's just that it's close to it. And right now our facilities are being used by public health for treatment centers and for vaccination areas. And soon it's going to be the booster areas there. So we're getting a lot of increase of the usage of it. And it is showing its age. We haven't had a CIP project approved, I think, from local funding in a long time for most mayors. We make the requests every year. We have an aging fleet. And so this is kind of just an injection. So hopefully, you know, if there is money, like Senators Brown and Tello say, there is something there that we can get something and to really have that flexibility. Because I do want to put up the street signs. I do want to put up, make the walking paths a lot safer. That's the things that I want to do. And we want to focus on some green initiatives as well, you know, putting either solar or wind in our offices. This is an opportunity to do that because it'll reduce the government's expense on the utilities, which is what we're paying a lot more now for. So I appreciate all of your support in this and just really looking at it that way. So just remove the word sports out of your mind and just look at it as a village-based funding, and we can kind of give you the breakdown of what we want to use it for.
All right, thank you, Mayor Hoffman. Senator Duenas?
Responsibly, Mr. Chairman, and once again, thank you to Mayor Alec, the President of the Council, as well as Senator Hoffman. I'm predicting. Mayor Hoffman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, but I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to ask the committee to write a letter to our congressman, to BBMR, and to Rev Tax, and clear this thing up once and for all on the funding source. I think that I'm going to explain just real quickly what I heard Daphne say in the Committee of the Whole. She was discussing fiscal year 22, which is tax year 21, in terms of when the funding would be available. We understand from Office of Finance and Budget, and we need to put BBMR and the rest on the record, that tax year 20, the money will be available in fiscal year 21. And so we've already paid those taxes, so it's a reimbursement to the government. Mr. Chairman, I think it's so important for us to be clear on this. So I'm asking on the record now that we write a letter to the congressman, to BBMR, and to Rev Tax to clarify, when does that 55 million or so start? When does the clock start on that? So that we can be comfortable that this money is available for appropriation as being reimbursed for the money that we spent in tax year 2020 or fiscal year 2021 for tax year 20. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think that will clear this up once and for all.
Yes, and thank you, Senator Duenas. Yes, I will take that recommendation wholeheartedly. We will prepare that. And in reference to this bill, in addition to that, but we'll also have a roundtable with the mayor, Mayor Alec, and we exactly what Mayor Hoffman brought up and Senator Torres brought up. We were going to talk about sports and specifically sports. If we're going to amend the bill or on many parts of the bill to be amended, we want to make sure that everybody's well aware of it. But we'll schedule also a roundtable to get that discussion going while we're waiting for a response from the congressman and from BBMR and Revenue and Tax. All right. That being stated, there's what are you waving your hand for, Senator Tello? There's no question here. We're about to wrap it up already.
Yeah, I just want to concur with Senator Duenas' request. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just want to support you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That being said, there's no one else to testify on the bill. The committee will suspend. We'll continue to receive testimony in support of the bill, But we will schedule a roundtable and we will actually address that recommendation by Senator Duenas to the parties that we need to address it to. Any testimony, please submit it to the mail room, the Guam Legislature, or at the Guam Congress Building, or through email at senatorjoesandagustin@gmail.com. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending the virtual public hearing and providing feedback suggestions. The public hearing is now adjourned. It is now 11:15. Please be safe and si Diyos masi. Take care.